Hello everyone, it's Theme Park Avenue, I'm Eric. Hershey Park has one of the most loved and respected roller coaster lineups of any amusement park in the world. So since I went recently, and in honor of RMC Wildcats' untimely demise, this is a ranking of every roller coaster at Hershey Park. Before we begin this ranking, I would appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. At Theme Park Avenue, there are tons of rankings, reviews, and other theme park content, both serious and funny. And there is more to come. Now, some things I should point out. I will be referencing Hershey Park Enthusiast list a couple times, because it's the main one I have to compare to, given that he's a local at Hershey Park. The other thing, very important, this is an extremely controversial list. If you agree with all of these picks, you're crazy. Honestly, this is like my Magic Mountain ranking, but twice as bad. So my advice, if you get very upset with controversial opinions, click off before you get to the top 4. Just leave the top 4 to your imagination. With that out of the way, let's begin. Number 14 is Coco Cruiser, a meme in the Hershey Park community from my understanding. This one is a fine kiddie coaster. I did ride it because I knew I was going to rank all of the rides, so I kind of wanted to make sure I'd bet on it. And it is a kiddie coaster. It's fine for what it is, got slammed into the side a couple times, which is kind of painful, but there's nothing else really that bad about it. Number 13 is Wild Mouse. Hershey Park Enthusiast hates this ride with a burning passion. Just watch his whole diss track on it and it's a whole meme on his channel. I don't think it's quite as bad. It's an okay Wild Mouse. There's nothing that stands out that's good about it. The uncomfortable parts aren't as bad as others. It's just a run-of-the-mill, middle-of-the-road Wild Mouse. I see why some don't like it. I'm not sure if I would ever go as far as making it the main thing I hate on my channel, but it's not that great, but it's not that bad either. It's just fine. Number 12 is Trailblazer. The day I rode this, some sort of renovation had been finished on the ride. I don't know what that was, but I must say, it definitely wasn't retracking. This is a fairly rough Aeromine train. I know plenty of them can be, but this one was among the roughest. Its terrain usage is its greatest strength. Going near Stormrunner is also quite fun, and I like the helix at the end, but other than that, this is a very short, unspectacular Aeromine train, and I feel like it's probably one of the weakest ones out there. Number 11 is Laugh Track. Laugh Track is a coaster that could be higher on this list if it weren't spinning. This may sound weird, but allow me to explain. This ride has a very strong opening, going down a relatively fast first drop and a few fun turns, and being able to really appreciate the funhouse theming. Unfortunately, once you start spinning, you can't feel those forces anymore, and you don't get to see as much of the theming. If this spun a good amount, maybe that wouldn't be a problem. But this thing spins very little, but just enough that you don't feel like you're riding straight forward, and you can't enjoy the layout of the ride. It spins less than the worst ride on any Pandemonium at a Six Flags park, and honestly, while it is a fine family coaster, it could be so much more. Number 10 is Super Duper Looper. This one is definitely a classic. It is the only one my dad had been on before going back to the park, and I think it's quite fun. The vertical loop is the highlight for thrill seekers, and the rest of it, while technically a little meandering, is fun. I think the terrain and setting are quite nice, it is a long, enjoyable ride, and it certainly earned a decent spot on the list. Number 9 is Comet. This wooden coaster is certainly a classic, and is relatively well kept. It's got quite a jolt to it that can sometimes be pretty painful, but I mean, even the best wooden coasters like El Toro and Phoenix have that. The airtime is good on this ride. I don't think it's spectacular per se, but I do enjoy the ride. It is a long, fun, classic wooden coaster, and it's worth riding in the park if you don't wait in the 2-hour line this thing typically accumulates for whatever reason. Number 8 is Jolly Rancher Remix, the incredible new roller coaster that came to the park, and by new I mean repainted. But this is among the best Vekoma boomerangs. This one has all the forces that the others do, but it's also the smoothest one, and even if it weren't, there'd be no headbanging because of the pretty solid restraints. I also think the theming elements are fine. I like the tunnel and the fog and the colors and smell and music and all. It doesn't add a ton to the ride, but it's nice that they have it, and I enjoy it overall. Definitely a great roller coaster, and the theming stuff adds a tiny bit. Number 7 is Wildcat. This one, I believe in the Hershey Park Enthusiast song Sweet Style, he said the layout redeems it, yes of course. And with that, I couldn't agree more. The roughness wasn't even that bad for me. My front row ride was definitely favorite, and in that one, roughness does not bother me at all. Even at its worst with roughness though, this thing is not unenjoyable for me. I'm really sad that this thing is going to be gone most likely because it has a great sense of speed, strong intensity, and is a long fun ride with a handful of airtime moments. It's quite comparable to Twister at Knoebels. This one is only slightly weaker than that one I'd say, and that one's a fantastic ride. I enjoy this ride quite a bit, and I'm really sad it will be gone most likely because of the RMC treatment, but if they name it Twisted Twizzlers, all will be forgiven. Number 6 is Lightning Racer. This GCI is slightly better than Wildcat for being smoother, having a few more airtime moments, and having flybys that are quite fun. The fact that this ride exists makes you think, okay, we're not losing too much by getting rid of Wildcat. It's like if a park had 2 inverted coasters, but one was worse than the other, and we got rid of it. Looking at you, LaRonde, that would be very nice. But overall, I enjoy Lightning Racer a lot and find it underrated because of how many say it is slow and forceless. I don't know when they rode, or if they'd ever ridden anything besides Steel Vengeance before that, but I find this is a very fun and somewhat intense roller coaster, and it's my favorite wooden coaster at the park. Number 5 is Great Bear. This inverted coaster is one some consider among the best, some consider among the weakest. I lean toward the latter group unfortunately, though I do think it's a great ride. There are no bad B&M inverts. This one has a great first half. I enjoy the unique first drop and all the inversions, but after the Cobra Roll, this thing loses speed like no other invert does at all. And while it does mean you can appreciate the setting, it does mean the thrill aspects of the ride are weaker in the second half, and the first half isn't grand enough or long enough that it really completely saves the ride. I think it's great overall for sure. It is a great bear, in fact. It's certainly more Ursa Minor than Ursa Major though, for those who get that reference. It's just a bit short because of what they had to work with, and the second half doesn't do a lot, but it is still a great number 5 for any park. It could be number 1 at plenty. Now remember to hop off if you do not enjoy the most controversial opinions. Number 4 is Skyrush. I think some of you probably saw this coming when I said hop off at number 4. And yeah, it's controversial. Everyone loves this one. There are people called Skyrush fanboy out there. There's a huge group of people who consider this one of the best roller coasters in the world. And there are great aspects to it. You have a very good first drop. You have some intense turns and moments. You have 3 stellar airtime hills. And the ride is very fast-paced and whippy. If you're into that sort of thing, there is so much to enjoy. Ultimately, your enjoyment of the ride to an extent rests on how you can tolerate the restraints. There were parts of the ride where the restraints didn't bother me, but unfortunately, the airtime moments that should have been the star for me are the parts I enjoyed the least because of the restraints. They were quite painful. And the other thing that no one really talks about this ride is kind of short, especially for a hypercoaster. Once again, I understand the space they had to work with, but for me that hurt the ride more than others because it left me really unfulfilled. I'm not quite sure how to describe it, but unlike Iron Gwazi, which is also kind of short, I felt completely fulfilled with the elements on that one. And even another short coaster I'm going to get to soon fulfilled me more. This one, I enjoy certain elements of it, but when I'm on the ride, I just didn't have fun on the airtime moments that hurt, and it's just too short for me to really enjoy. And when I'm riding a roller coaster, it's more about having fun than analyzing the objective best elements and all. So if this ride, even if it meant adding seatbelt and over-the-shoulder restraints and all honestly, if they did that and it meant I could enjoy the airtime moments, I would honestly take that. For now, it is still a great Intamin hyper, and some of the things about it make it one of the best in the world. But there are flaws that just make me not enjoy it as much as other rides in the park. Number 3 is Fahrenheit, a very underrated ride for sure. I just had a lot of fun with this one. You have disorienting inversions, all of which are quite enjoyable. I think it's a good sense of speed, it is not a short ride, and there isn't anything I did not enjoy about it. I guess it's not technically groundbreaking, but it's so much fun, and I consider it one of the best in the park for sure. And even if it isn't a standout in intensity and all that, it is worth the ride, but get on it early because the lines build up faster than the temperature. Number 2 is Storm Runner. Hershey Park enthusiasts, this is your favorite if I'm not mistaken, though there have been some changes, I guess I'll say. Well, I think this is the second favorite for me in the park. Though in terms of objectivity, it might be the best. Every element is phenomenal. The first launch, especially front row, is insanely powerful. And the layout is glorious. You have a very good top hat for airtime, and 2, technically 3, mind-blowing inversions. That flying snake dive is one of my favorite inversions, period. The sense of speed is second to none in the park on this ride, and the only thing that does hold it back a little is that it's over a bit too quickly. But unlike some of the short rides, such as Full Throttle and even, as I mentioned earlier, Sky Rush, this one had nothing I did not enjoy. The stop did not feel too abrupt, and I felt very fulfilled by these phenomenal elements by the end of the ride. But number 1 had to be, big surprise here, Candymonium. I know it's crazy to have a B&M Hyper, you know, a slow, forestless, underwhelming B&M Hyper is number 1. But this is the ride I had the most fun with. And the reasoning for it being number 1 is as simple as that. There are elements of quality that are among the best in the park for sure. The first drop is far and away the best in the park. The airtime moments are wonderful and I love Floater. I enjoy the helix that goes around the fountain and the way you go through Chocolate Town. It is a long ride, so there's plenty to enjoy. And the turnaround is one of my favorites on any B&M Hyper. It's not the most ambitious in terms of forces or anything like that. And I understand why some don't think it's really an elite roller coaster, but for me it is among my favorite B&M Hypers. And it is among my favorite roller coasters out there. It's just one that I have so much fun with, even if it isn't technically anything super new, innovative, crazy, thrilling. If I could only ride one Hershey Park roller coaster again, it's definitely Candymonium. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoy Sky Rush, I'm sure you did not, but understand it's just one crazy guy's opinions. I hope you enjoyed nonetheless. Subscribe to the channel for more theme park content, and check out the content that's already there. I'll see you next time.